जॉईन होते लगेच झालं. हाय की मी जॉईन. हा. Good morning, good afternoon, all of you. I welcome to all the presenter here. Shivaji University Kolhapur Center for Distance and Online Education. From today, we conducting online NetSet coaching lecture series for the students, those who are appearing for NET and SET examination. So today, this is the third lecture. Today we are going to start now. The first lecture delivered by today, Dr. K.B. Patil on the first paper, which is mandatory for NetSet examination. Second lecture is conducted by Dr. Machale sir for the specialization subject history. Now, third specialization that we have English. Today we start this lecture. Before going to start the lecture, I am requesting Dr. Beliketi sir to introduce today's Professor Dr. Sandeep Parid as a resource person. Dr. Beliketi sir.
Hello, good afternoon, everyone. Today, yes, I'm Dr. Prakash Baswani Belikatti, Assistant Professor in English at Center for Distance and Online Education, Shivaji University, Kolhapur. I'm here for the introduction of today's guest lecturer, Dr. Sandeep Parid, sir, Assistant Professor in English, Dr. Ghari College, Gadinglas. Once again, I welcome all of you and Dr. Sandeep Parid to this online platform of Center for Distance and Online Education, Shivaji University, Kolhapur. And for this platform, for guidance to today's SETNet English paper, we have Dr. Sandeep Parid with us. In a brief way, I would like to introduce him. He completed his MA from the Department of English, Shivaji University, Kolhapur. From the same department, he also completed his MPhil and PhD degree too. He also cracked a SET and NET, both the examinations. And for this same examination, later he has delivered a number of lectures in different colleges. So far, he has published a number of papers. It includes 4 state level and 9 international level papers. He has with H index. So we have such experienced personality with us in today's session. So with this brief introduction, I stop my introductory note on today's lecturer, Dr. Sandeep Parid, sir.
I requesting Parid sir to start your lecture.
1 minute, sir. Before starting the lecture, will you please tell me? I want to share some PPTs or certain screenshots. So I will start my presentation.
Yes, sir, you can share.
Yeah, 1 minute. Okay, is it visible, sir?
Yes, Sandeep, it is visible to us, all of us.
Okay, okay. So first of all, good afternoon, one and all. I'm Dr. Sandeep Parit. As Venkati sir has introduced me, Dr. Sandeep Parit, Assistant Professor at Dr. Ghali College, Guiding. So today, the topic which is given to me, that is guidance for set and net examination, paper second. So first of all, I would like to thank organizers for giving me this golden opportunity to deliver such a nice lecture in front of you. So I hope that the students from English department might have joined this presentation. So set and net examination, because state eligibility test and net national eligibility test, two exams are there. Those who are aspiring for lectureship or as a they wanna join as a lecturer, they have to crack these exams, set and net examination. Set examination is limited for this state level over Maharashtra and Goa, and net exam is there for whole India. So importance, you know that we are aspiring for that. We wanna pass this examination. So before this, I would like to tell you that in my lecture, I will just focus on the content on which the questions are asked, the syllabus of set examination, the important focus of paper setters, and certain examples, certain questions which are asked in the examination. So before that, in morning session, you might have listened about the structure of first paper, the marking structure, marking scheme. These all things have been discussed there. But here, again, just let me explain you the marking structure of second paper for set examination. So, first of all, the set exam will be conducted offline in objective mode. Now I'm talking about the test will consist two papers. The test consists two papers. The first paper is having 50 questions. The duration for that paper is 1 hour, and the marks which are there for that paper, 100 marks. The second paper is there. In that second paper, 100 questions will be asked. They are compulsory questions, and each question carries 2 marks. It means that the second paper is for 200 marks, and it has 2 hours. Within 2 hours, you are supposed to complete the second paper. As previously we have studied in the first session that we listen to the lecturer. The first paper is based on teaching terminologies, certain things, then general knowledge, certain. The second paper totally or completely based on your English literature. Now, what is the scope? What things are to be focused or highlighted in the second paper, which we are going to study in this lecture? So for second paper, it has 4 sets, 4 different test booklets are there, A, B, C, and D. The student has to ensure the same text booklet code which is printed there on a OMR sheet. It means that there are 4 question papers designed, 4 sets are there. Here, there are 100 questions will be asked. They are compulsory questions. Each question carries 2 marks, and the whole paper is for 200 marks. Again, let me repeat it. So here, this is the nature of question paper. Now, if you see the syllabus of this English question paper, the syllabus is vast one, because English is the global language, English is the world's literature, English is the world's lingua franca, English is spoken everywhere in the world, and therefore English literature has a vast syllabus, vast scope, I would say. So it covers the literature of whole world. Those who are studying for set examination, they have to study the literature of whole world. It means that before that, let me just go through the important electives of English literature, the genres of literature. A drama is there, poetry, novel, short stories, essays. These all genres are being focused in the question paper, in the syllabus. So the syllabus is there on your screen. Drama, poetry, fiction, short story, non-fictional prose. So these 4 units are there, the basic units are there. The first 4 units must be tested through comprehension passages to access critical reading, critical thinking, writing skill, etc. It means that your all abilities have been checked here. So you have to study the drama of world's literature, means English literature, poetry, fiction, these things. These 4 units will cover all literatures in English. So all literature, I would like to highlight this one, because English literature is not limited to the literature of Britishers. Beyond that, we have to study the literature of Greek, literature of Roman, classical literature, I would say, American literature, British literature, Irish literature, new literatures, Caribbean literatures, African, Australian, and our Indian English literature. So it has a huge scope. You cannot limit it. And therefore, facing set examination is one of the challenge. Facing set examination in English is one of the challenge, because it has broader scope. The syllabus which is there in this for this paper, it has a huge scope because it covers the literature of whole world, and therefore you have one challenge in front of you to crack set examination through English subject. Now, while studying for set examination, certain basic things are to be focused properly. Basic thing means you must know the history of English literature. History of English literature, then a glossary of literary terms, one of the important books by M.H. Abrams, a glossary of literary terms. You should just do that, read that book by heart, because it is the masterpiece by M.H. Abrams. It will help you to understand each and every concept of English literature. So first important thing is the history of English literature should be focused. You must know the history from classical literature to up to now, up to post-modern era. What things are there? What masterpieces are there? What are the major writers? Their themes, certain details are there to be focused. So history of English literature is the first focus. Second, I would like to tell you a glossary of literary terms just I mentioned by M.H. Abrams. म्हणजे असं मला म्हणावं लागेल की ह्या पुस्तकात तुम्ही पारायण केलं पाहिजे. Each and every concept is explained in detail in that book. So that book should be done by heart.
आमची सेमिस्टर झाली आमची. होय. आता गाईड चांगले.
That is Oxford Companion to English Literature by Margaret Draper. So that book is very much important. Each and every detail,
सगळं गाईडवरच आहे हो.
each and
शेवट
everything is minutely explained in that book, that is Oxford Companion to English Literature. Then history of criticism or criticism, critical theories. That one of the important topics is there. One subjects is there for graduate and postgraduate level. So that critical studies, critical theories, criticism, Then linguistics, one of the important subjects for English students. English language teaching, that ELT, translation studies. So these all things are to be studied for the preparation of second paper of English. So here, just I explained to you, all genres are to be studied: drama, poetry, novel, short stories, essays, all literatures of world, that is Greek, Roman, American, British, Irish, new literature, Caribbean literature, African literature, Australian literature, and Indian literature. So these all literature which are there in English are to be studied very keenly and minutely. That is expected from you people. So whatever I discussed, certain thing, after listening to this, you will understand the scope, how much, at what extent we have to study it. Apart from that, linguistics, criticism, ELT, translation studies, all these electives are to be studied. So these are the very much focuses there for this syllabus. Language, the basic concepts of language, theories, pedagogy, English in use, English in India, history, evolution and futures, cultural studies, literary criticism, literary theory, or these all things are to be studied, research methodology and methods. So these are the contents in the syllabus. So just I explained you, the basic foundation should be cleared. You must know, you must go through the history of English literature. For that history of English literature, you can refer certain books. In that, I would like to just mention History of English Literature by Goodman, David Dash's History of English Literature. Just I mentioned Oxford Companion to English Literature by Margaret Drabble, History of Literary Criticism, Pelican Guide to English Literature. So these basic books are to be read very carefully. Not only read, I would like to suggest you that go through this book oftenly. Try to capture each and everything from these books. Then you build your foundation for this examination. So just I explained you that the question paper, 100 questions, 200 marks. Within 2 hours, you are supposed to complete this, and the vast scope of this syllabus. So you have to manage. This is a tough fight. This is a challenge in front of you. To crack SET exam in English, it is a challenging one. Why? Because of this scope of the syllabus. Now, the whole scope, the whole syllabus, what things are to be focused? What things are to be highlighted from this syllabus? I will just explain you later certain questions. We will discuss what type of questions are asked in the SET examination. We are there to discuss here later. But before that, I will go through history of English literature, and I will highlight certain authors, major masterpieces, major works of literature, which are to be focused in the study for SET examination. So as a student of English, when you study the history of English literature, you have to keep in your mind one thing. While reading the particular history, you have to focus on masterpieces, biographical details of writers, prizes, honors owned by the writers, plot of masterpieces, major characters, historical characters, major events in the book, important publications by the writer, types of writing, and chronological order of events and works. Means the events which took place in the life of that particular author, the publication of the works of that author, influences of the author. These all minute things are to be studied thoroughly and properly. Then and then you will be able to cope up with the questions which are asked in the examination. So you might understand how, at what extent you should be minute, you should be keen in your study, because For specially English subject, you have to be very keen reader, minute observer, and then you will be able to crack this examination. As I explained you, again, I would like to highlight certain words, certain electives, certain areas which are to be prepared, which are to be studied. So let me repeat it again. First, all genres are to be studied. Genres means drama, poetry, novel, short stories, essays. All literatures, that is Greek, Roman, American, British, Irish, New Literature, Caribbean, African, Australian, and Indian English literature. Apart from that, the linguistics subject should be studied thoroughly. Critical theories, that subject. English language teaching, ELT, the questions based on ELT will be asked. Translation studies, nowadays it is booming. Nowadays translations are done. The books are translated from one language to another language. So these all areas are to be studied for the preparation of second paper. Now I want to go through certain things, certain important highlights which are important there when you are going to study. What things, what historical ages, periods in literature are to be studied, what important writers are there. So you have to just highlight this right from the beginning. When literature came into existence, English literature came into existence, that is a classical period. During Homer or Homeric period, I would say, certain Greek legends are there. They have written, they have started writing in English. From that period to up to now, that is postmodern period we are living nowadays, the whole history of the literature should be studied very minutely by the student of English. So I will take certain cursory glances on the history of English literature. So very classical period, that is Homeric period. Homer's Odyssey and Iliad, one of the important writers from Greek legend, I would say. His literature is well known, prominent one, and that writer should be studied. Then classical Greek period, that is Greek writers, philosophers, in that Aesop, Plato, Socrates, Aristotle, Euripides, Sophocles. These all writers which are very much there who contributed in the literature, particularly Greek philosophers, Greek writers, classical writers, I would say, and they have contributed in the English literature. So their literature should be studied. Homer, Socrates, Plato, Aristotle, Euripides, Sophocles, their golden age of Greece. Their age is known as the golden age of Greece because during that period, the golden literature has been produced by these stalwarts. After that, classical Roman period. Classical Roman period, in Roman period, numbers of other Roman writers started writing in English. In that Roman period, many classical writers, philosophers, Cicero, Quintilian, such rhetoricians, they came into existence, into picture, and they also wrote certain books, classical books, and so their period is also very important. Then patristic period, which is there in early Christian writings, such as Saint Augustine, Saint Cyprian, Saint Ambrose, Saint Jerome, their writing is also there. So this is the classical period in English literature, in the history of English literature. So these are the major writers and their works are to be focused. The questions based on these these writers and masterpieces are asked in set examination. Now let us start with the next phase of English literature, the history of English literature. In that Old English, then Middle English, and early modern English during the period of I think 500 to 1000. In that during that period, whatever literature was produced, that literature was known as medieval literature, and in that many more writers came into existence. They wrote certain things, certain books, they became famous. So the Anglo, after that, during that period, that is Anglo-Saxon period, 400 to 1066, this period is known as Anglo-Saxon period. And during that period, certain major writers wrote certain poetic works. Beowulf, the Wanderer, the Seafarer, such a poems have been published, have been written. Then the writings of Alfred the Great are also very much important during that period. Then after that, Middle English period means after 1000, means 1066 to 1500 century. During this period, whatever literature is produced, that literature is known as Middle English period, medieval English literature. In that, during that period, certain dramatists, certain poets who came into picture, and they wrote certain works of arts. The major writers on works of poetry, that is William Lagrange, the famous poetry, Piers Plowman. So all these students who have joined this meeting, just you have to highlight, you have to write down certain important pieces, because whatever cursory glances I am giving here, whatever names I am taking here, they are masters in literature, masterpieces in literature, and they are very much important. You are supposed to go through these plots of all these works of art, the biographical details of all these writers. So these are the areas on which the second paper of set is set. So here in medieval English period, certain writers, William Lagrange, that is Piers Plowman, the famous poem, Geoffrey Chaucer's Canterbury Tales, Chaucer's period, I would say, Sir Gawain, the Green Knight Prose, Sir Thomas Malory. So these are certain figures. They are major writers during these medieval periods, during 1066 to 1500, means during these 500 years, some rare writers started writing in English, and they have contributed in the glory of English literature. Just I named Chaucer is there, Langland is there, Sir Gawain is there, the Thomas More Mallory is there. So these are certain figures, and their work of arts are to be highlighted. Then during that period, types of dramas have been practiced. That is mystery plays, miracle plays, morality plays. Just I am mentioning certain names which are very much important for second paper. What is mystery play? What is miracle play? What is morality play? The practitioners of all these plays, allegorical writing, personification, or certain things which are very much means practiced during this medieval period. Miracle, morality, mystery, these are the types of plays which have been practiced during this period. So you have to take the information of all these types of plays, all of the major writers of this period. Now the next period comes, that is 1500 century, that is to 1660. During this period, that period is known as the Renaissance period, 1500 to 1660. This period in the history of English literature, this period is known as the Renaissance period. And this Renaissance period has marked the most influential and the most fruitful writers. They came into existence, and as the title, that is Renaissance, flourishment or flourishing of literature took place during this period. certain writers during this period which are very much popular and famous, that Renaissance period. In this period, certain major works of poetry have been practiced. In that, I would like to take the name of the Earl of Surrey, Sir Thomas Watt, Sir Thomas Murray. These are the certain writers. After that, drama was being practiced. As far as dramatist is concerned, Ralph Royster Doyster, John Heywood, Nicholas Udall. So these are certain dramatists during this Renaissance period, particularly in the section of poetry, the Earl of Surrey, the Sir Thomas Watt, their poetry are to be studied. In the section of prose, Sir Thomas Murray's Utopia, Sir Thomas Eliot's certain prose writings, these are to be studied in during this period. So these are prominent writers and prominent works or masterpieces of their writing. So here, next one is Elizabethan age, 1558 to 1603. This age is known as Elizabethan age. In this age, Queen Elizabeth was the Queen of the England, and in this period, whatever literature was produced, that literature was named after the Queen Elizabeth. So here, the major writers during this era, particularly poets, Sir Philip Sidney, who has written on the famous poem Astrophel and Stella. In the same period, Edmund Spenser's The Fairy Queen was written, and William Shakespeare has written numbers of sonnets. You know that without the name of William Shakespeare, we cannot imagine English literature. Here he comes during Elizabethan period. Sir Philip Sidney, Edmund Spenser, William Shakespeare, they are the major poets during this Elizabethan period. So you are supposed to study all the masterpieces of all these poets. As far as prose is concerned, Francis Bacon's one of the philosophers, famous philosophers in English literature, Sir Walter Raleigh, prose writers. So they have produced fruitful and very important works. Their works are to be studied. In drama section, Christopher Marlowe's Dr. Faustus, and everybody, we know that William Shakespeare, he was not only dramatist but also a poet. So he has contributed in poetry, he has contributed in drama. So his plays, one of the prominent writers, I mentioned, without his name we cannot imagine English literature. He has produced world's tragedies, greatest tragedies, Macbeth, King Lear, Hamlet, certain tragedies are there, comedies are there. And so Shakespeare's whole work and whatever prominent writers just I mentioned, which has to be studied thoroughly for second paper. So up to now, up to Elizabethan period, I have completed the historical, certain historical figures or certain important writers and masterpieces in the history from uh, classical literature to up to now. So these names, whatever I named here, whatever works I have highlighted, I have uttered here, they are very much important. All these students are supposed to go through the plot of that particular work of art, their features of writing, themes of writing, minute details of all these works of art. Then you will be you will be able to solve the questions which are asked for second paper. So up to Elizabethan period, I have completed. The next is Jacobean age, that is from 1603 to 1625. Just a historical survey I am doing here, because you must know the major figures in the history. In this Jacobean age, metaphysical poets came into existence. They wrote very nice and very intellectual level poetry. In that, John Donne, George Chapman. In prose section, Francis Bacon, Robert Burton. In drama section, again, Ben Jonson, John Webster, John Fletcher, Thomas Middleton, George Chapman. So these all writers are to be studied. So here in this age, Jacobean age, the highlighting title, that is metaphysical poetry. The poets we have seen beyond physicality. They produced certain images. They brought certain new take in the poetry, and their poetry, their poems are to be studied because the focus. I will later explain you such a what type of questions are asked on the basis of this syllabus. I am taking the survey of historical survey of literature. What happened in the past? Who were the major dramatists, poets, and novelists? Novel will come during 18th century. We will study it. So these are very important names. The next is Caroline age, that is 1625 to 1649. During this period, certain poets, that is John Milton, who has written the greatest epic Paradise Lost, Paradise Regained, George Herbert, that is Caliber poets, John Donne again belongs to the same period. So here, their poetry. In prose section, Robert Burton, Sir Thomas Browning. In drama section, Philip Messenger, John Ford. So their works are to be focused here. So try to understand all the students. Whatever I named, you have to highlight it because they are master writers, they are major writers, and their work, that is Paradise Lost by John Milton, then other certain epics, certain poems which are produced during this period are to be studied here. The next period is Commonwealth, that is Puritan period, 1649 to 1660. When Oliver Cromwell came into the throne, and his period, the parliament was ruled by in the era, England was ruled by parliament, Oliver Cromwell, and during that period, that is Puritan literature was produced. So there, again, Puritan literature, that is John Milton's and Thomas Hobbes literature, that is Hobbes' Leviathan, Thomas Brownie's, Jeremy Taylor's, John Milton's, these figures are to be focused. Next period comes, that is neoclassical period. During 1660 to 1785, neoclassical means classicalism or classical literature was newly published. In new version, it was published as neoclassical period, and in that period, certain literature was produced. The next one is Restoration period, 1660 to 1700. During that Restoration period, again, John Dryden is the famous writer, Samuel Butler, Samuel Pepys, John Dryden, that is the novels, Afrabens, drama, William Congreve's The Way of the World. So these are the figures during this Restoration era. So the next age, that is Augustan age. Augustan age starts from 1700 to 1745, and the major writers, Alexander Pope, John Gay, Jonathan Swift, Richard Steele, Joseph Addison, Alexander Pope, Samuel Richardson, Daniel Defoe, Jonathan Swift, novel writer, Henry Fielding, John Gay. Means during this period, that a new genre of literature, that is novel, has been practiced. The figures like Samuel Richardson, Daniel Defoe, Jonathan Swift, they came into picture and they wrote certain novels. That is, the new genre is being practiced or started here in this era. The next, that is Victorian age, Romantic period. You know Romantic period, the major figures during Romantic period during 1785 to 1837. In Romantic period, we have certain names: Robert Burns, William Blake, William Wordsworth, Samuel Taylor Coleridge, S.T. Coleridge, Lord Byron, P.B. Shelley, John Keats. So these are famous figures in Romantic period. As far as prose is concerned, Mary Wollstonecraft, Charles Lamb, Dorothy Wordsworth. And as far as novel is concerned, the major novelist who practiced the form of novel, Jane Austen, Sir Walter Scott, Mary Shelley, and a Radcliffe. So these are the historical figures. Again, I want to remind all the students that I am doing the survey of whole English literature from classical period to up to now. up to romantic period, I have taken certain names of literary figures, their masterpieces. You are supposed to go through all these masterpieces. If you want to prepare for the set examination, you have to prepare that for the second paper, you have to go through all these minute details. These are literary figures. You might know all about it. So for history of English literature, I suggested you certain books. Go through these books. You will find the same, whatever I just surveyed here, you'll find all the names and masterpieces. The next is Victorian period. That is in 18th to 19th century, 1837 to 1901. During this period, whatever means literature was produced, that literature is known as Victorian literature, because Queen Victoria was there in the reign, and during her reign, whatever literature was produced, that literature is named after her. The major writers from the Victorian period in poetry: Alfred Lord Tennyson, Lord Browning, Elizabeth Browning. In prose, that is Thomas Carlyle, John Ruskin, Walter Pater, Florence Nightingale, Charles Darwin. In novel section, Charlotte Bronte, Emily Bronte, Charles Dickens, Thomas Hardy, Anthony Trollope, William Makepeace, Thackeray, Elizabeth Gaskell. Their novels and their masterpieces, their writing is very much important in Victorian period. And the only well-known dramatist which was there in during Victorian period, that is G.B. Shaw, who produced very important dramas, well-known dramas. So their masterpieces are to be studied for this second paper. Now, let us turn towards the 19th century. In 19th century, certain writers like Thomas Hardy, Oscar Wilde, then Oscar Wilde is there, Robert Stevenson is there, Thomas Hardy is there, and their literature is to be studied. They are well-known writers during this period. Up to 1914, that is from 19th century means up to 1914 means these 3 to 4 figures were prominent during this period. Later on, in modern period, in 1940 to 1939, the modern period we have reached now. In modern period, who are the greatest writers? In poetry section, Wilfred Owen is there, W.H. Auden is there, T.S. Eliot is there. In prose section, Virginia Woolf, Katharina Mansfield, T.S. Eliot, and the famous novelist I would say, Joseph Conrad, James Joyce, E.M. Forster, Virginia Woolf, Elvin Waugh, D.H. Lawrence, and in drama section, W.B. Yeats and again G.B. Shaw. So these are the major and prominent figures in modern period, in modern literature. And now turn towards the last segment of this historical background of English literature, is contemporary period. Up to we are living in postmodern era. After modern, the postmodern era starts. That is from 1939 to up to now. Whatever major dramatists, major novelists, and major poets are there, their writing is to be focused. As far as poetry is concerned, Dylan Thomas, Philip Larkin, Ted Hughes, Steve Smith, Seamus Heaney. In prose, George Orwell, Martin Amis. In novel section, we have George Orwell, William Golding, Doris Lessing, Margaret Drabble, Graham Greene, Iris Murdoch, Salman Rushdie. And in drama section, Samuel Beckett, Tom Stoppard, and Harold Pinter. So these are certain figures which are very much important in the history of English literature. So just I have taken the review of history of English literature, masterpieces, and the authors which are there and who prominently contributed in the history of English literature. As previously I have told you the scope and the syllabus which is there for second paper. In that history, just I mentioned history of English literature. Now the linguistics. Certain questions based on linguistics are asked in second paper. Now linguistics means the science of language. and that linguistics should be thoroughly studied. Those who want to appear for set examination, they should not neglect linguistics, because questions based on linguistics are asked in set examination. Now, in linguistics, you have to study certain branches of linguistics. That is, phonetics, phonology is there, semantics, morphology, syntax, sociolinguistics, pragmatics. So these are certain branches of linguistics. And the linguistics is very much related to our language. So this is a basic. And so you have to study linguistic also for this second paper. So first, history of English literature should be covered. Second, linguistics. That subject should be thoroughly studied or completed. The next one is critical theories. Whenever literature is produced, from that moment to up to now, certain critics also came into existence. Certain critics were there. They are the part and parcel of literature. They criticized, they explained, they analyzed, they interpreted the work of art, and therefore it has a huge history. म्हणजे क्रिटिकल थिअरीला सुद्धा एक मोठी हिस्ट्री आहे आणि तो इतिहास सुद्धा आपण सेटसाठी अभ्यासला पाहिजे. फ्रॉम क्लासिकल क्रिटिसिझम, प्लेटो, ऑरिस्टेटल, सॉक्रेटिस टू अप टू नाउ म्हणजे डेरिडा, structuralism, post-structuralism, reader response theory is there, modernism, postmodernism is there. Many theories are there. Many critics came into the picture and they explained their theories. So these theories are there to study. So all my students, I would like to tell you that these all electives are to be focused. And for critical, for the preparation of critical theories, you have to refer one book, that is a history of English criticism or critical theories. B. Prasad's one book is there, famous book is there. You can go through these books, and from beginning to up to now, whatever critics are there, criticism, their theories, theory of mimesis, theory of catharsis, then primary imagination, S.T. Goldie's secondary imagination, from up to now, whatever things are there, you have to study it properly. Now the next elective, that is English language teaching, ELT we would say. So that questions based on that part also asked for this paper. So English language teaching is very much important. Certain books are there. I will just send you the list of books which are needed for this preparation. So this is the one part of that set examination. The next one is translation studies. Nowadays, you know that many more translators are there. They are translating works from one subject to one language to another language. Many Indian books have been translated into English. So translation studies has got importance nowadays. And therefore, the questions based on translation book studies have been asked in the second paper. So you have to be ready with the preparation of translation studies. Now, just I focused, it is there in no syllabus, the genres of literature, drama, novel, poetry, and short stories, fictions, prose fictions are there. These are genres. Now, literature means what? A written body of text. Whatever is in written body, written form, that is literature. And English literature means what? Whatever is in written form, particularly in English language, that is English literature. So these all genres are there in English literature. So whenever and wherever any book is written in English, that book becomes the part of English literature. And as a student of English, you have to study each and every literature, each and every book in English. And therefore, these are certain electives, certain areas on which you have to focus. Again, let me repeat. एक इंग्लिशचा विद्यार्थी म्हणून तुम्ही काही गोष्टी बेसिकली परफेक्ट केल्याच पाहिजेत. आणि त्यामध्ये मी मगाशी एक्सप्लेन केलेलं आहे की सगळ्यात महत्वाचं 4 गोष्टी तुम्ही बाय हार्ट करणं गरजेचं आहे. इट शुड बी डन बाय हार्ट. जे नवीन सुरुवात करणार आहेत, दोज हू आर अपीअरिंग, दोज हू हॅव अपीअर्ड, those who have given the examination, what they lack, why they are lagging behind, what they are means lagging behind. Certain things are there की काही मुलांना क्रॅक करता आली नाही, स्कोर करता आलं नाही. कारण डोंट गो राऊंड अबाउट. यू हॅव टू बी पर्टिक्युलर इन युअर स्टडी. अभ्यासामध्ये पर्टिक्युलर असले पाहिजे. सो एक सजेशन तुम्हाला सर्वांसाठी माझ्याकडून असणार आहे. जे कोण सेटसाठी किंवा नेटसाठी तयारी करणार आहेत त्यांनी 4 पुस्तकांचं पारायण हे केलंच पाहिजे. The first basic book for set examination, that is second paper, that is a glossary of literary terms by M.H. Abrams. याचं पारायण सतत केलं पाहिजे. Each and every concept in this book should be studied by heart. Notes काढा, prepare your own notes. What you do with your plan, you have to do. Next is history of English literature should be completed. History साठी मी मला सांगितलंय, there are many writers who have written history of English literature. त्यामध्ये डेव्हिड डचेस, गुडमन, पेलिकन गाईड्स आर देअर. पेलिकन गाईड नावाचं पुस्तक आहे, म्हणजे त्याच्या गाईडचे भरपूर व्हॉल्युम्स आहेत. यू कॅन रेफर these books for the history. Just in this lecture I have taken cursory glances of history of English literature and major figures कुठले आहेत, major writers कुठले आहेत, major work of arts कुठले आहेत. I spoke about it, and therefore you have to highlight it. So M.H. Abrams' book, that is a glossary of literary terms. History book, David Duchess, History of English Literature. Pelican Guides, you can refer. A History of English Literature having 2 volumes by Goodman, you can refer these books also. And one more important masterpiece, that is Oxford Companion to English Literature. This very bulky book is there, and that book was written by or edited by Margaret Drabble. That book should be referred for the preparation of second paper. Then I told you literary theory, criticism, linguistic, ELT. For these elective, you are supposed to refer certain books. The list is ready with me. Soon after this lecture, I will send this list to you people. Then one more important thing. Just we have seen the genres and history of English literature and all these other electives, criticism, linguistics. But earlier in the same lecture, I mentioned that you are supposed to study the literature of whole world. Whole world means wherever and whenever English language is there, it is spoken everywhere in the world. English is world's lingua franca. English is the window of the world. It means that English is a global language, and therefore English literature has a global importance. It is not only written in Great Britain, it is written in all over the world. And therefore, as a student of English literature, this is a very tough job to study all these literature. Again, I would like to mention the literatures which you are supposed to study. The literature of America is American English literature. British literature, already we have taken the survey. Then Greek, Roman literature, classical literature, those classical writers who wrote in English. Then Irish literature, W.B. Yeats. Certain Irish writers, they came into existence and they wrote certain books, that is Irish literature. The major figures, major masterpieces are to be studied from this literature. Then new literatures. Nowadays, whatever literatures they have came into existence. Caribbean literatures, Derek Walcott, the literatures which was there in West Indies, in Jamaica, they have written, many writers are, budding writers are there, they are coming up, they are writing their literature. Now African literature, Australian literature, and ours, Indian English literature. We cannot means neglect all these literature, because this is the part of your syllabus. In Indian English literature, we have Vijay Tendulkar, Kiran Nagarkar, Mahesh Dattani, some certain dramatists are there, novelists are there, Vikram Seth is there, Salman Rushdie is there, Sarojini Naidu is there, and their all poems, there are all their work of arts, which are masterpieces. They have to be studied very keenly and minutely. So this is the scope. These are the areas on which you are supposed to focus on for the preparation of set examination. I hope you understood it, the scope of the syllabus, what things are to be studied. Now, I would like to just explain, show you certain sample questions which are asked for the second paper. 1 minute. Let me just send flash. One minute. So what type of questions are asked in second paper? Certain sample questions are there. See, just I mentioned certain sample questions for second paper, and this question was asked in the previous exam of set. Who first used the term metaphysical for Dunn and his followers? This question was asked in March 2023 exam, set examination. So this focus, metaphysical, this term was focused by, used by whom? That is Ben Jonson, Dr. Johnson, George Chapman, or Coley. The right answer is Dr. Johnson. So here, if you go through the English literature, history of English literature, just I mentioned in the survey, in that survey, the term metaphysical or metaphysical poetry. So such a types of questions are asked. Now the next question, wait. The next question which is asked for set examination. The types of questions which are asked for exams. Now, what is the pen name of Charles Lamb? So you have to study the biographical details of writer, their pen names, their all history, the prizes won by the writer. I mentioned in my lecture. So what is the pen name of Charles Lamb? This question was asked in the same set exam paper. So here the answer is Ilya. So such a type of question is also asked. The next one, is it visible to you, all of you? Is it visible? Okay.
Yes, sir, it's visible.
Okay, okay. The next question, the famous term cultural industry was coined by. So you have to go through, just I mentioned one book, that is a glossary of literary terms or Oxford Companion to English Literature by Margaret Drabble. In these two books, you will find the answer. The famous term cultural industry was coined by whom? The answer is Theodore Adorno. This is the person. So such a question will be asked. After reading, after studying these questions, you will understand at what extent, how minutely you have to study. You have to go through the details. So this is what I want to highlight here. Another one question I wanna take here. The question, see the question, who coined the term gynocriticism? This question is from critical theories. If you study the history of criticism or the whole survey of criticism, you will find the same answer. Age-wise, century-wise, whatever theories have been practiced, what type of criticism was being practiced, it is all there in that. And so, who coined the term gynocriticism? The same question was asked in the last set examination. The answer of this question is Ellen Showalter. She has coined this term. The next question, see again the question based on criticism. Who translated Derrida's Of Grammatology in English? Now Derrida you might know because one of the postmodern critics Derrida, and who is famous for his post-modern theory, and he has written one book of chromatology. So who translated this book? This is the question. If you have studied criticism, the whole theory of Derrida, you will find the answer. And the person who has translated this book, that is, I think, Education-SUK. So these are certain questions which are very much important. Such types of questions are asked. Let me take some more questions. Okay. Who authored the Twice Born fiction? It means that you must know the writers and their books, name of books. Such questions are frequently asked. Who has written XYZ book? Who is the author of this book? Such questions are asked. So you should have the list of all masterpieces with the names of their writers. It should be done. And from all the electives, from all the literatures, you have to make the list. Who authored the Twice Born fiction? The author of this book. The answer, the particular book is from Indian English literature. The question belongs to Indian English literature. Whatever we have been discussing in this lecture, that question can be from any literature, from anywhere in the world literature. So this question is from Indian English literature. The book is written by Indian English writer, and the name of that writer is Meenakshi Mukherjee. So after studying these questions, you might understand what sort of preparation should be done for the preparation of this set examination. You should be very keen and minute. Now let me go ahead and see another one question. See, in Night of the Scorpion, Ezekiel represents, Nissim Ezekiel, the name of the Indian writer, represents the superstitious attitude of ... This is the question asked in the last set examination. Night of the Scorpion, in that book, Ezekiel represents the superstitious attitude of Indian women, Indian boys, Indian peasants, Indian parents. The answer is Indian women. So here, again, this question is from Indian English literature. Nissim Ezekiel is one of the important modern Indian writers, and he has contributed in Indian English literature. So the question based on that elective. The next question. In the Golden Notebook, Doris Lessing. What is the answer? ... In the Golden Notebook, Doris Lessing असा प्रश्न विचारलेला आहे. The question is from last set examination. Now here you must know authentically the particular theme of that particular book. Particularly, you must know the theme of the book, otherwise you will not be answered the question. So in this book, Doris Lessing, what she did, examines or provides or contains or explores. What she did, that answer you must know. So see at what extent you have to study. Don't go through only plot, only all themes. You must know the speciality particularly about that book. Otherwise, you will not be able to answer the question. The next one. See, such questions are frequently asked. Just I mentioned the ages in the literature, history of English literature. If you go through ages, you will find the period, their publication years, and you will understand how to tackle with such a questions. The question is, Charles Dickens' David Copperfield was first published in. So you must know the publication year of David Copperfield. Again, the question was there in the last SET examination. Such a types of questions are asked. Now, let me go ahead. You have to identify from which elective, from which area the question is asked. There are two kinds of morphemes. Morphemes means morphology. The question is from linguistics. In linguistics, one of the branches of linguistics is morphology. And morphology, there are two types of morphemes. Which are they? Bound morpheme and free morpheme. So again, just I mentioned, whatever elective, whatever topics, whatever areas, on all areas the questions are asked in the examination. So here you have to be ready to tackle with such a questions. Some more questions. See, again, in the Life Divine. The Life Divine is the work of art written by Sri Aurobindo, one of the prominent figures in English literature, Indian English literature. Sri Aurobindo's work, The Life Divine, leaves his mark as a literary artist, visionary saint, social reformer, historical critic. See the difficulty level of this question. No doubt he's an artist, he's a writer, he's a critic. But in this work, which role he plays, that has been asked here. And therefore, if you find, if you study all these examples, you will find that what sort of questions are asked in SET examination paper second. So I hope you imagine, you can judge yourself that where you are now and what things, at what things you have to develop yourself, improve yourself, which areas are to be focused and studied. So this is a survey which will help you to go ahead. Now, first thing, the historical survey, certain content, syllabus, all things, important areas, key focuses, I have explained here. Now the next thing of my discussion, that is how to plan for study. How will you start studying for SET examination, particularly for second paper? So my style is different. What I did and how I passed, that matters for me. First, collect all previous question papers available at website. If you want to start preparing for SET examination, because you don't know, but I just helped you and made you to understand the depth of the study, at what extent you have to study, because I surveyed all the things, I highlighted all these things, and I made you know how or at what extent we have to study and prepare. Now, while starting the preparation, first collect all previous question papers available at website. UGC website for NET examination, you will find question papers at NET website. For SET examination, you will find the question papers of previous examinations at Savitribai Phule Pune University Pune website. On that website, you will find the question papers. First of all, collect all those papers. Read all these questions. And I just given the electives, name of electives, criticism, linguistics, Indian English literature, American literature, or drama, whatever. Categorize, separate all these questions as per the electives. Just we have studied 10 to 15 questions now. We have seen the samples. One is from Indian literature, one is from linguistics, one is from criticism, one is from American literature, one is from Irish literature. So you have to categorize all the questions as per the electives and then study it properly and minutely. After analyzing the area of paper setters, you will understand on which area the paper setters are focusing. The weightage should be given to which area, which literature, which elective, what sort of questions are asked. You will find the direction. And for that purpose, you have to analyze the previous papers. You have to analyze, you have to list out all the questions. You have to categorize these questions as per the electives and study the focus given on the area, highlight the study area, and as per that, make the plan for your studies. So after analyzing all the previous questions, you will understand how should I go ahead, how should I start the study, where to give the focus, to which paper the weightage should be given. So all things will be clear. So first step to start or to plan for study is you have to collect all the previous question papers and study it properly and categorize it, separate the questions as per the elective and try to understand the weightage and the focus of paper setters. This is the first thing. After analyzing all these things, you will come to know how we should go ahead and start the studies. The next important thing, after analyzing all this, after analyzing the weightage, types of questions, certain picture will come in front of you. It will clear for you that how should I go ahead. This is the plan. Next, continuous study should be done. What happened? Most of the students, they appear because the MCQs pattern is there. Multiple choice questions are asked. You have to click on one correct answer. And after that, your answers are analyzed, are checked, and your result is declared. So what happened? Without studying superficially, artificially, after reading some part, unknowingly, we go and attend the papers, but we cannot go through. It will not be good for our preparation. We have to be authentic. We have to study it properly. Each and every content should be studied properly. That is needed. So continuously you should be there in the study. I would like to tell you that plan for 6 months. Within 6 months, you will be able to crack the SET examination. So here, give your 6 months only. But for 6 months continuously, you have to study it. Whatever content I have mentioned in this lecture, you have to study it continuously and properly. Make timetable and follow it properly. On regular basis, daily basis, you have to plan for your timetable, your getting up, your sleeping time, whatever content are to be studied. These all things are to be planned for. You have to touch all the electives and areas of literature as I mentioned previously. And also I have explained the important books, means the basic books. I will not repeat it again. You have to just plan for that. And the last point of my discussion, I wanna just focus on the last point, that many times what happens, because you study, you read all the literatures, all the books, you prepare for this that examination, but what happens on the day of examination? Your psychology matters. What sort of mentality you are having on the day of examination, that matters for your preparation. So you have to carefully plan for that day. Each and everything should be planned very neatly. You should be disciplined on that day. It means that you have to plan for your mentality, your psychology, because you studied, you read, you came up with preparation. It's okay. But on that day, you are having full of tension, burden, what to remember, what not to remember. I have studied all these things. Certain question, certain fiasco, certain confusion was there. It is there in the mind. So don't be confused. Be fresh, be frank, be active, be energetic, I would say, on the day of examination and plan carefully your breakfast, whatever you eat, your meal, or you drinking water. So keep your mind calm, quiet, and peaceful, and go to that exam section and attempt very nicely, give your full potential, and be quiet, peace, and peaceful and calm during your whole examination. Attempt each and every question. So this is all about the discussion about second paper, how to prepare it, the content, the syllabus, sample examples we have studied. I hope you understood it, you got it. Uh, on my side, I have completed the discussion. If you have any doubt, anything you want to convey, you can ask me. We will have interaction section here.
Yes, sir. Yes, students. If you have any queries, any doubt, any cynics in your mind, you can raise questions. Now the Parit sir is there. He will definitely clarify your doubts. Are you there? Mani
Yes,
is
sir.
there. Yes. Then if you have any doubt or any cynics in your mind, you can raise questions related or concerned to the today's session that Parit sir has already clarified before you in a very minute way with having some references, examples, and so on. So things are there. Am I right?
Yes.
Yeah, then if you have any doubt, otherwise we will resume today's session.
No doubt, sir.
Yes, despite you, there are some other students. If you if you don't have any question, then I will request to Dr. Mupit Mujawa sir. Parit sir.
Huh.
Yes, sir is there. Sir is there. I think there is no any question.
Okay.
Because you already clarified.
Yes,
I
yes.
declared just now that you have had a number of references, number of examples
Yes, sir.
that you covered in your lecture. So there may not be any question. So I request to Dr. Mupit Mujawar, sir, for vote of thanks. Mujawar, sir.
थँक यू व्हेरी मच सर. दूरशिक्षण आणि ऑनलाईन शिक्षण केंद्र शिवाजी विद्यापीठद्वारे आयोजित नेट सेट परीक्षेला सामोरे जाताना या कार्यशाळेअंतर्गत ऑनलाईन कार्यशाळेअंतर्गत डॉक्टर संदीप परीट सर यांनी आपल्याला इतिहास इंग्लिश विषयाच्या संदर्भात मार्गदर्शन केलेले आहे. मी सरांचं त्याबद्दल आभार मानतो. त्याचबरोबर दूरशिक्षण केंद्राचे संचालक डॉक्टर डी के मोरे सर, उपकुलसचिव कुबल सर, उपकुलसचिव कोथमिरे सर, त्याचबरोबर जे इथले समन्वयक के व्ही पाटील सर, त्या सर्वांनी हे कार्यशाळा आयोजित करण्याची आपल्याला संधी दिली त्याबद्दल त्यांचं आभार मानतो. आणि बेळकटी सर यांचे देखील आभार मानून सर्व विद्यार्थी जे उपस्थित होते त्यांचे आभार मानतो आणि अध्यक्षांच्या परवानगीने कार्यक्रम संपला असं जाहीर करतो. धन्यवाद.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you. Once
Thank you.
again, thank you.
Okay.